Hello, and thank you for joining me for It's Great to Meet You. We've got a delightful show coming up. Today I chat with Connie Ryan, director of the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa. We talk about her work to defend democracy, the nuances of religious freedom, her competing affiliations with Iowa universities, the power of telepathy, and what precisely defines something as a soup. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Sieck. It's Great to Meet You is a production of the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. At First Unitarian, we love radically, grow ethically and spiritually, and serve justly. Unitarian Universalism is a pluralistic religious tradition, meaning we don't have a dogmatic statement of belief. Rather, we covenant with one another to put love at the center of our actions. We recognize the inherent worth and dignity of everyone and our interconnectedness with one another. And so our justice work seeks to affirm that worth for all people. If you think all people should be able to flourish and you believe your spiritual journey is less about dogma and more about how you treat one another in the world, you might be a UU. Let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining me on It's Great to Meet You, the show where we meet the good people of Des Moines out there doing the good work. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Sieck, and I serve as a minister at First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. Today, we have the pleasure of talking with Connie Ryan, Executive Director of the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa. Connie Ryan, it's great to meet you.
Well, I'm so glad to be on here. Thanks for inviting me.
Let's start with the big question. Tell us about your work. Tell us about the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa.
Well, Interfaith Alliance of Iowa was created almost 30 years ago. Our 30th anniversary is next year in 2026. And we were founded because of a contentious battle in Des Moines over a school board race. And from that, a group of folks created eventually Interfaith Alliance of Iowa. And we work on a broad spectrum of issues, bringing together Iowans from across the state. We're statewide, we're nonpartisan, and we bring folks together to have a progressive voice in the public square. And so what we try to do is to challenge extremism that's in our midst, defend democracy in all types of ways, protect religious freedom while not letting religious freedom and religion to harm people and be misused in that way, and safeguard the rights of Iowans. And so we do educational activities and projects, and then we also do advocacy, including lobbying at the State House. I have the honor of doing a lot of that work, but also empowering. Really, our goal is to empower Iowans to use their voices on these issues that matter.
Thank you for all of that. I want to come back to that last bit about empowering Iowans in a minute, but just to circle back. So 30 years ago, there was a school board issue that became contentious. And through that, this interfaith alliance versus an ecumenical, right? So we're talking about across religious identities gathered together. And you mentioned challenging extremism.
Yeah. So that really, because that school board race, there was a man who was on the school board who was known to his family and friends as his sexual orientation being gay. But the religious right came into Des Moines and made his sexual orientation the issue of that school board race. He'd served on the school board for about 12 years, and he was ousted because of the religious right and the extremist views of those national groups that came in. And so there was a group of folks who said that's not right, and we need to have a progressive voice, particularly people of faith that are countering the religious right. And so that was how Interfaith Alliance of Iowa was born. And so we work on LGBTQ issues, we work on reproductive freedom issues, we work on immigrant rights, strong public schools, just a very broad spectrum of issues. And that all came about because of that extremist attack on somebody in our community in Des Moines, but really have broadened that to statewide.
So I'm hearing that when they were seeking to oust that what was his school board, right? That it
Yeah,
had
school
nothing to
board
do with
race anyway.
his
Yeah.
work in the role. It was just the identity part of it. So as we're working toward this inclusive work for LGBTQ rights and women's bodily autonomy and immigrant rights, what holds the center? Because I imagine that you get pulled in so many different directions then.
Yeah, we always go back to our mission, and at the core really is religious freedom, the religious
Mhm.
freedom piece of it. But also side by side with that, the part where religious freedom should not be used to take away people's rights, to harm people. And that's what has become of religious freedom and even religion to some degree. And so we always kind of circle back to that and challenging those extreme political voices that are misusing religious freedom for their own benefit. That gets us into issues like Christian nationalism, where Christian nationalism really is about power and misusing religion and religious freedom for power.
Mhm.
So it takes us into a lot of different ways. You are right that I get asked all the time to they see interfaith, they see people of faith, and they want us to do work in a lot of different areas. And so we try to be very clear what we do and what we don't do. And when I say people of faith, it's really people of faith and no particular faith. And so, because of the religious freedom part of it, we have people who are part of our work, who support our work from all of the major faith traditions, but also people of no faith, people who are secular, people who are agnostic and atheist, people who are spiritual, the nuns, so to speak, not the N-U-N-S, but N-O-N-E-S,
Mhm.
because they believe strongly in religious freedom.
Yeah, I'm grateful for you lifting that up, the distinction between my freedom to practice a religion that says, I don't know, that redheads all need to move to Alaska or something, right? Versus the freedom to be a redhead, right?
Right. Yeah.
The joke here, the listener, is that I have zero hair.
And I make up for
Giving
that.
everyone the space to thrive in whatever religious identity or absence of identity.
Yeah, you have every right to believe, whether it's because of religious freedom or freedom of speech or whatever it is. You have every right to believe whatever you want to believe. But when you use that, when you use your rights to harm other people, to take away other people's rights, that's when you cross the line.
Right. Now, you mentioned educational work and lobbying. Where do folks in Des Moines see Interfaith Alliance showing up in the city?
Well, across the state, we do educational work in forums. We have a monthly luncheon in Des Moines with different speakers who come in and talk with on different topics. We do the same thing in Cedar Rapids, and have done those lunch and learn forums for, oh gosh, in Des Moines, I think close to 20 years, in Cedar Rapids, like 14 years.
Mhm.
And then we do other events in other cities. We also try and engage people just in conversation. Beginning to do some work more intentionally in rural Iowa to really dive into conversations, but also to change the narrative in those rural areas that have dominated. So a lot of work in that way at the State House during the legislative session, which is generally, well, it starts always in January and generally to April or May. And I serve as the lobbyist for the organization. So I'm at the State House almost every day of the legislative session. And but also bringing Iowans up to the State House when they can, or engaging their voices by contacting legislators. So we do a lot of work at the State House, talking with legislators, talking in subcommittee meetings, but also empowering Iowans to use their voices from their computers or cell phones or whatever that may be to try and influence outcomes of legislation.
And I'm glad you mentioned all this statewide work because I'm meeting folks in Des Moines. You and I have met in Des Moines. You work in Des Moines, but this is a statewide effort. This is the Alliance of Iowa, right? Yeah.
Correct. That's
Yeah.
true. And we have advocates and supporters in all the major cities in Iowa and small towns as well across the state.
Well, and then the last question in this opening part, how can the Des Moines community help you in your work?
I would just say be engaged in the work. If you're not on our email list, please do join. You can do that on our website or contacting one of our staff, and we'll add you. That's the best way to get information of what we're doing currently. We also give a lot of information of how people can be engaged through other community efforts, even if it's not an Interfaith Alliance of Iowa event. We give a lot of information of what's happening in our community. So you'll get an email every Tuesday during the legislative session. We also do a very extensive deep dive into legislation that we're working on and that we're asking people to advocate on, give you all the tools of who to contact, how to contact, messaging, that kind of thing. But also just engaging in the work if we're having events and joining with other organizations. We do a lot of collaborative work. And so if we're having events or protests or whatever that may be, rallies, join us in that as well. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say support the work. It's important work, and it is primarily supported by Iowans from across the state. And so we would welcome that as well.
And now we move to our speed round. This is a series of questions that helps the listener get to know you, Connie Ryan. Connie, what's your favorite place to eat in Des Moines?
Probably Alphagon in West Des Moines, and second would probably be Chentro.
Okay, I've heard of neither yet, so this is going on my list. Your favorite place to go in Des Moines that's indoors?
Oh, wow. Really, truly the State House. Even though it is so
Not
contentious
expected that.
and so, I know, right? I'm just a whatever wonk. It is a beautiful, beautiful building. If you haven't been in the Iowa State House, it is a beautiful building. So setting aside the horrible politics of our time in that building, it's just, it's a wonder, and I encourage folks to go there.
Great. And what is your favorite place to go outdoors in Des Moines?
I'm not a big outdoor person because there's bugs and whatever, but probably Grace Lake.
Hmm, wonderful. Do you have a favorite grocery store? I'm still undecided.
I kind of go back and forth between Hy-Vee, which I know is a problem, and Fairway. Those are probably the two I go to the most.
Okay. Do you have an opinion about the Cyclones, Hawkeyes, Bulldogs, or Panthers?
Well, I have a undergrad degree from Drake, so go Bulldogs, and I have my graduate degree from Iowa, so go Hawkeyes, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, so you are internally divided. All right,
I am, and I actually went to UNI for a year and a half, so I have a little bit of division there too, but mostly it's the Bulldogs and the Hawkeyes.
excellent. Okay, now we take a question from our children here at First Unitarian. And this is a very popular one. I can certify this as a parent as well. Connie, if you could have a superpower, which would it be and why?
Oh, um, reading people's minds. Um,
Okay.
I, I understanding that internal conversation that people are having that doesn't necessarily come out.
Reading people's minds. Okay, is that telepathy? Yeah. Now, would you like to be able to get inside their minds too, or just hear it?
Just understanding them. Like I think
Okay.
it would, we say things out loud, but we always have that internal dialogue in our head and understanding how people come to believe something or understand something.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder with those powers, would you be able to turn it off? Or would you just
Yeah,
hear the
that
voice?
would be the
Yeah.
problem, right? I think there's
Yeah.
a movie about that, and I forget what it is, but like the guy could never turn it off, and he just kept hearing all the things. So
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a little bit chaotic.
that could be. All right. So you went for a very magnanimous one. Most people say invincibility, but I like this. This is good. Okay, so now our staff here at First Unitarian has a fantastic sense of humor, and they've given us a choice for our staff challenge today. Uh, Option A is a silly "Would you rather" question, which we can debate why you'd pick this one versus that. And option B is a 60-second very silly debate about a, a nonsensical topic. Do you want
Oh
the would you
gosh.
rather or the debate?
Um, the debate.
Okay, the debate is this: is cereal soup?
No.
Say more.
Like soup is you put all the stuff into the broth and the it all comes together and the herbs and the noodle like it all becomes one.
Right.
And cereal is a dry substance that you put a little bit of milk on top. Now, I have thoughts about also how much milk there should be as well on cereal, and it should not be a lot because you don't want the cereal to get all soggy and mushy and gross.
Now
Uh,
there's our hot take for the whole podcast. Connie Ryan, low milk. All right.
that's right.
Yeah, so you're saying soup involves like a combined effort of things
Yeah,
over time to
yeah,
develop the mix of savory and umami and
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And cereal is any
And it
kid with milk.
becomes that. It it becomes one.
Ah, okay. All right. I'm in agreement with you, but for a different reason. I think I get the joke, right? It's stuff inside a liquid. But I think that we understand it to be a breakfast food. And when we eat it at dinner, we're laughing and going, ha ha ha, look, I'm having cereal for dinner. But we understand it like taxonomically to be a breakfast food. And we understand soup to be a savory lunch or dinner thing. So I feel like it's a transgression that we're aware of. But
Yeah,
I like your answer better.
I do,
You don't
and
have
I
to
do
cook a
like
cereal. Yeah.
and I do like cereal for for dinner sometimes. Let me ask you, what's your favorite cereal
Oh, for the long term, like to live forever, or like for one bowl?
for one bowl?
Golden Grams.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've even ever had that.
Golden Grams? Oh, yeah, college staple. Yeah.
Okay.
It will not help you live a long, fruitful life, but that's honey bunches of oats or granola or something. Yes. Do you have when you add your one splash of milk, what is your cereal?
Shredded wheat.
Oh yeah, that'll get you to 100.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, is there anything that you want to promote? Any events coming up?
Well, I mentioned earlier that we have a monthly luncheon in Des Moines and Cedar Rapids. And the luncheon in Des Moines is always on the third Friday of the month. The luncheon in Cedar Rapids is always on the first Friday of the month. You can find all that information on our website and what's coming up. And so invite people to make their RSVP for either of those. We do like to know how many are going to be in the room. And they're always great conversations and always great information. I learn something every time with those. So I would encourage people to take a look at those and join us if they're able.
So you heard it here, Des Moines, third Fridays of the month. I believe the one in September, if we can get this out in time, is at Plymouth.
Yeah, they're always at Plymouth,
Okay.
in Des Moines,
Mhm.
and always at St. Paul's United Methodist in Cedar Rapids. They're great
Cool.
partners with Interfaith, and we're very grateful for them allowing us to use their space. Yeah, first Friday in Cedar Rapids, third Friday in Des Moines.
Well, Connie Ryan, it's great to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us today and keep on doing the good work.
Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it.
And that does it for us today. Thank you all for joining us. Keep doing the good work, Des Moines.